Hello everybody, my name is Ian Frank and I am the CEO of Gear Here. Now Gear Here is an online camping store that allows scouts and other users to log on and purchase any outdoor equipment that they may need. The idea for Gear Here came from looking at those in my scout troop who needed assistance with gear and my own lack of gear. I was raised in a way that made me appreciate the outdoors, but in a financial environment that made it nearly impossible to have what I needed to be comfortable out there. That's the issue that my business solves. It allows me to sell gear to people who may not be able to afford other gear necessarily, or better gear. Gear Here began as an idea, which I then took to the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, and they helped me to develop it into a working business plan and model. Now, I used that model to compete in a local investor panel, which actually took place at Rev 1 Ventures, and then I won that competition, as Chaz said earlier. Took almost $800 and the ticket to the national competition in Rochester, New York. Now in Rochester, unfortunately, I did not place in that competition, but coming off of that stage and after the event, I spoke with everyone that I could, and everyone that I spoke to knew who I was and what I did by heart at that point. After that competition, I came back and registered with the state as a sole proprietorship. And after that registration, I began advertising online. Now, I didn't quite get as many clicks as I would have liked, so I did what any insane person would do, and I decided to sign on and work at a scout camp down near Cincinnati for 2 months. Now, that was an incredibly fun opportunity, but I got to advertise for Gear Here while I was down there. Now, while I was down there, I had this incredible opportunity I spoke with the camp director and the office manager to see if I would be allowed to put business cards up at the very front of the office. It'd be the first exposure that anyone would be able to see when they came into the camp. Now, I was given that opportunity, and by some miracle, they both said yes. So I have my business cards up there, and 2 days later, my manager comes down, and he's got my business cards in his hand, and he passes them back to me, and he says, "The business manager took your card and went to your website, and you're selling things at a lower price than the trading post here on camp, so you can't advertise for your business here because you're stealing business from the camp." So I'm a little defeated at this point, but I keep advertising my business to my class. I hammer it in there. Every week, every class that I teach, by the third day of every class, people can tell me my website address and the name of my business, and I've had several people in class look up my website, and I'm watching them as they browse my site. Now that is a pretty powerful movement. It kind of moved me to see that because I was entertaining them in such a way in class that they decided, hey, I'm going to support this guy. Even if I'm not going to buy anything, I'm still going to browse and see what he has to offer. That's pretty much all I have. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. Yeah.
So if I wanted to, is it a used gear site?
It's actually used and new. I carry new stuff right now, and as soon as someone lists something used, it will be on the catalog, yes.
So if I wanted to list something used, what's the process?
So actually, if we scroll down on this web page here, is it all right if I do that?
Yeah.
So right here, I have instructions for it where you'll take photos of whatever it is. If it's a tent, you set it up, you take pictures of the outside and the inside. If there's any mold or mildew, clean that off before you ship it. Just kind of be courteous. Send those pictures to me. I'll list it in the catalog, and then I'll email you once someone purchases it. After that, they will send the money to my account through Shopify, which will then be transferred to you after they confirm that they have received the item. Anybody else?
Just from a marketing perspective, do you have a list of all the Boy Scout district councils?
I do not have a list of all of them, but I am going to start locally with Simon Kenton and the Dan Beard councils, because I worked in the Dan Beard and am a resident of Simon Kenton, so it's easier for me to move around my local areas first and then expand from there.
And I would say don't forget to get all the direct mail.
Yeah, will do. Thank you. Yes?
I don't know if you're familiar with this, but I've learned about over the last 6 to 12 months. There's a concept out there, a book was written called the Matchmaker Principle, where you basically serve as a neutral platform between someone who wants something, someone who wants to sell something. Yeah. Would you consider yourself a matchmaker for
I would.
Gear?
I would
Okay.
definitely consider myself that.
That's what I had a hunch based on what I was hearing, because I think the concept is brilliant, because Uber and Lyft, Airbnb, a lot of the
Thank
big
you.
economy companies are matchmakers.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate
great
it.
job.
Appreciate it, Matt. Thank you.
What do you anticipate to be the general difference between the retail price of a respectable tent and one that's maybe gently used? What do you anticipate those cost differences to be?
I'd say maybe 10 to 20%. It depends on how heavily damaged or used the item is. If there's some small tears, I would evaluate and recommend the person that emails me to list it to maybe take some off the price that they're asking for. Or if it's like in really great condition, I'd say, hey, maybe you could ask for another $5 or so off of this, because eventually there is this standard where things can be gently used. Like if it's good enough to return to the store they bought it from, then they can sell it for near new price. But if they've had it in their garage for 10 years, obviously there's going to have to be some give. So it just depends on the specific damage or wear that there is. So yes.
Who sets the price? It sounds like what you just said, you set the price. If I have a tent, do I say I want $100 for picking up something?
So if it's something that a person is selling to someone else on the website and they will set the price, I might email them back and say, hey, you might want to consider dropping this a little bit because I don't think it's quite worth that much. So I will give advice to a seller. But if it's new gear that I sell on here, then I will set the price for that. But only if I am the retailer will I set the price. Yes.
So how do you sell new gear on your website lower than other retailers?
So that portion of my business is a drop shipping business. So specifically, I take everything that I can find that's camping related from factories in China, Indonesia, those sorts of regions, and I mark them up $5 to $10, as little as I can take reasonably, and then set those as listed on my site for sale. So my business is built specifically so that way scouts or people who don't quite necessarily have as much money can afford it. I'm taking my profit margins off of a lot of people being satisfied by low prices instead of very few people being and buying high prices.
So you're really dependent on volume?
Volume, yes. Which is why I'm taking the chance as a minor, because I don't have to make that much money currently, so.
If I
Yes,
wanted to sell new gear on your site, could I do that?
absolutely. Absolutely, as long as you
$9 above list.
go for it. Go for it, power to you.
Do you feel that the low margin new merchandise is a profit center in and of itself, or is that a loss leader that you're trying to get people to come to the site so that they can take advantage of the used market where you might have, you have a 10% margin on that side, right?
Right. It could be either or. It depends on the item specifically. Like I have a lot of things on the website sold for new that aren't quite worth as much, but then there are some things that I don't think that people would sell used. Like I've got a couple of sleeping bags on there that are rated for negative 30-degree weather, and a lot of people that buy those aren't going to sell them because they're going to need them. Those go for about $120 each, which is actually pretty decent for that. But like I've got a bug net on there for $15, so it's kind of what you want to get in terms of how well it'll sell. Yes.
So let's say the floodgates open, every scout council across the country is going to flock into your site. How is it scalable for you in the sense of, if you're handling and listing everything manually for each person, it would get overwhelming. So is there an automation that you look to build into at a certain point with a milestone, or?
I'm looking for something like that right now. If something scales that quickly, then I probably will just ask for help from as many people as humanly possible until I can get something installed or working. I'm the oldest of 5 siblings, so I know that other people can kind of pitch in and help where I live to get me through until I can find something. But it's not child labor if it's family. But no, I am looking into that. But hopefully, if there is that explosion, which, please, yes, we'll be able to figure something out.
Is there an entrepreneurial merit badge that you're?
There is actually. Chaz proposed, what was it, last year? That if anyone were to take the YEA merit badge, they would earn 5 merit badge. It's entrepreneurship, American business, public speaking, as well as a couple others that I forget, but I did earn them
Well, 6 college credits from Ohio Christian University for participating in the class as well.
Wow.
So if you apply to Ohio Christian University before the class starts and you're accepted, and then you graduate from this program, you earn 6 college credits as well.
Are you an Eagle?
I am, yes. I got it October 25th of last year. Thank you. Anything else about me or the business? Yes.
Have you, following up on the question prior, you're gonna need help. But if you need help, you can't all of a sudden start getting help today.
Right.
So what are you doing to line up these people as potentials? So that if all of a sudden there's a surge, you can hit the switch and call up somebody.
I have a lot of friend groups that I've asked for help if they would be willing, and they'd say that they'd pretty much drop anything to come in and help should that need arise. Working out how I would be able to compensate them for that kind of emergency switch like that, but there would be some kind of switch to where I would be able to do that. Yes.
Along the lines of helping, and since you've already geared towards Boy Scouts, why don't you reach out to a bunch of the councils and even troops to, as a fundraising option, if they do something for you, you're going to get a significant cut of that margin that you would have gotten if they're doing the work. It would be a great fundraiser for them, it gives them something to do. And it's a great partnership because they are doing something that you were inspired to do the very same way.
Prior.
Have you considered that approach?
I have not considered that specific approach. I have considered going around to various troops around the state and other districts, talking to them and advertising, but I definitely would consider kind of getting them into an entrepreneurial spirit by having them do it themselves, because eventually that's what I would like to see is inner troop. Hey, you need a sleeping bag, here you go, $15. Well, community pot is what I'd like to see eventually. Nobody gets cold, everybody gets fed.
Yeah, I remember being a Boy Scout and having to get that gear.
It's pricey.
Or it is, especially if you're going from, camping in Texas to someplace cold overnight.
Yeah.
You're not sure what's going to cut it. So I get
I've been there.
I think it's a great opportunity, and if both the messaging and everything else works really well, it's a really good partnership with the Boy Scouts.
Thank you.
You can pursue.
Thank you. I'm going to shoot for it. Anything else?
Time for one more question. Well, I guess I'll take the last question here too. So what's next? What's the next milestone to hit? Or
So I'm just trying to grow my presence online currently, but once I hit, like a first purchase would be wonderful. But after that, 100, 1,000, whatever milestone I hit that I have to expand and bring help on board, that's really what I'm looking for next, is to where I'd be able to hire people to come in and help. Because I'm just looking for growth at this point. But once we hit like the need for a physical location or some sort of office space, that's really when I'm going to be satisfied that, hey, we're doing really well.
so as you do that, watch your margins, make sure you've got the margins in control for your operating costs.
Absolutely.
Because with growth
Comes
comes
price.
price. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.